Hey everyone, this is Glenn Flaherty, Board Games and Bourbon. It's been a while since we had a video, and definitely a while since we had a top 5 video. So I wanted to revisit an old topic, my 5 favorite roll and write games, 2022 edition. We're going into 2023. I thought it might be fun to see what we have here and how things have changed. And I can tell you from the last time I did the video, a lot has changed. Now, part of that is some games start to feel a little bit dated. Other things have passed them by. We all need new experiences too. But I will tell you, everything I'm going to talk about here is a worthwhile experience. So I'll talk about what the games are that I like and why I like them. So number one, we're going to start with an honorable mention. It's going to be Bloom. Now, this is by Game Right Games. You can still get it. And it's pretty inexpensive. I want to say maximum $15, okay? Now, in this game, you are rolling some super nice dice. They feel really good in the hands, sort of velvety and soft. And you're trying to fill out a flower bed here. I played this a lot, so I have all my extra papers here. You're trying to fill this flower bed out. Now, the number of the die tells you what color flower you want to circle and how many you want to do. If you end up circling flowers because of the way it's laid out that aren't the right order, you get strikes against you, and you're competing with 2 elements within this board. You're trying to get 4 at a time of a certain color, and you're also trying to fill out the larger bed areas. There's 6 bed areas in this, okay? Now, you're not only competing against the 4 specifics that you want, you're competing against the filling out the whole bed, you're competing against other players, because the faster you can do these elements, the higher your scores are. You're trying to be the first person to get all 4. If you do that, you get 6. If not, it goes down to 4 points. And if you're the third person to do it, you get 2 points. Then you're fighting for the beds. And then you get the minus points if you make unhappy customers by getting the wrong flowers. Plays very quickly, super low footprint, easy to play. Those are the elements that I like in a traditional roll and write game. So the next one we're going to talk about is Eagle Games Baseball Highlights, the dice game, which also they have football highlights. Football highlights has a lot of interesting decisions in there because there's more ways to score in football. You can go for passes, you can go for field goals, you can go for touchdowns. There's offense and defense. This one, is just straight home runs. But it's really fun. I played this with a couple of my buddies, and I played it solo. And both ways are really interesting because you're going to be rolling the dice and you're deciding if you want to go for a 1 or a 2 or what modifications, when you want to score, what detriments you want to take that short term. You really do get a fast, fun way. It's really cool to see if you can get your score higher. I thought it was quite an ingenious design. If you can find it, you might only be able to get it on Eagle's website. I'm not sure. But this is definitely one to check out, okay? If you like sports, I would even say if you don't like sports, it's a fun one. It reminds me a lot of playing like Tecmo Bowl or like a VTech machine from the 80s where you press the button and you see the guy go around the bases. Super cool game, okay? That is the highlight system line. I'm also going to recommend another game that's an emulator, and that's going to be Super Skill Pinball. Now, I love pinball, and this gives me the feel of the pinball. The graphics are amazing. You're moving this little ball, and you're bouncing around, and you're trying to get all the points you can. There's a lot of content in this one box, too. So there's a lot of different, pinball games you can play, you can say. Now, what I will say about the game is each independent machine that you're going to play has its own rule set. So you have to get familiar with each of those. And if you're really good at the games go on probably longer than you want, man. Like I really atomized it on a small level. And I was really racking up the points. I was doing super well, trying to beat my own score, of course, but the games can go on really, really long, okay? I would say this is really a multiplayer solo game. That's one of the detriments that a lot of like Euro-style games or sometimes roll and writes can have is they're multiplayer solo. But this shines as solo, and I would recommend this to anyone. And it's so much fun. I think even multiplayer sitting next to each other, you're going to have a great time. Definitely one of the best, and it feels so good to see that ricochet and watch it score everything. So that is Super Skill Pinball Arcade. Now, talk about that ricochet effect. One of the games kind of led that off was Pinchback and Matt Riddle's Fleet. Now, Fleet has been, I would say, upgraded, redone, redesigned. And now they have a version of it called Three Sisters. Yes, this one is still shrink wrapped. I think I have 2 shrink wrapped copies and an opened one. But this has a rondelle system in it where you are trying to grow a garden. And much like Fleet, what you choose is going to tick off certain boxes. And as you tick off certain boxes, you're going to get benefits. You get benefits that might be points, they might be powers. And then as you move around this rondel, there's a compounding element of what decision you're going to take. And they all start to interlock in this web that gives a really satisfying feel. And it's not overwhelming, which I really like. Again, this is a traditional roll and write game because it's super small footprint. I really appreciate it. The production is really high value. This is one you're going to have a lot of fun finding ways to raise your score. Solo, super strong. Okay, now the last two are really, I'm going to say, a roll and write in name only. That's the form factor. I think that's really where we are. In the modern game, what you're having are modern roll and write games are big games that are using the roll and write element to bring down cost, as opposed to going to the elements of small footprint. You could print it off even. Just use a pencil and you're ready to go. There's a lot of other elements. The price is more expensive too, but that's where we are, okay? So let's talk about Dinosaur Island Roll and Write. Man, this game is awesome. In fact, I would say this is better than Dinosaur Island. It's easier to get in the table. The decisions are still meaningful. It plays great solo and multiplayer. And it has a system in it where, the premise of the game is you're rolling dice and you're expanding your abilities. You're expanding your park where you are trying to house a lot of animals. You are trying to have security for the animals. You're unlocking things down the road that are going to give you scoring opportunities. And that's a lot like the big game. But there's also this element where the dice kind of compound upon themselves. So you have the dice you choose initially to get points or to build. But then there's a second part where you place them down and you activate certain powers. And what your dice are can influence what powers you get on that second thing. A lot of great decisions in it. Super easy to get on the table and play. Rules light, I would say, for something so meaningful in decisions. So definitely try this one. I think this should always be in a collection. Dinosaur Island, Roll and Write. Another big game and an honorable mention in this category, but not part of the top 5. I'll do my honorable mention first. This game was ahead of its time. Again, an Eagle game called Roll Through the Ages. What an amazing game. Now, it's not a looker. And in fact, when they sent it to me, if you look here, the components are wood, like an old Polar game, and just black and white paper. They sent this to me for review. They didn't tell me why it was sent. I didn't know if they sent me an old game, a new game, if it was on Kickstarter. There was no context. I thought they just sent me some old game they found in the warehouse. And I think I said that in my reviews. They didn't use it. But it is an amazing game. There's an interactive part where you can battle with people over islands, but you're moving pegs and you're growing your powers. You're trying to fight off famine and you're trying to do warfare at the same time. Wow. Few games have left me with such a meaningful experience where I really felt like I created an empire as Roll Through the Ages. This particular one is the Iron Age. If you can get it, please do. You're going to do yourself a favor. But that reminds me of its modern incarnation, spiritual successor, I will say. Not that it was based on it, but you get that feeling. And that's Hadrian's Wall. Hadrian's Wall really is a full-fledged Euro game that's in this form factor to cut price, I would say. There's a lot of paper. There's a lot of weight, and it's almost all paper in here. Now, this is a game where you're building your society again, and the neatest part about this that makes it unique is how everything you do nets into some other action or ability or scoring opportunity. And you can't just go all in on one thing and hope to win. You got to push this a little bit, and that will lift this up. And then lifting this up, from A to B to C to D to E to F, they're all lifting each other up these little bits, and they're making something cooler, more possible. And then that thing opens up new doors to you. You can take a gamble and you can try to push something all the way up a track. That'll make it easier to do certain things down the road, but it's not certain that you'll be able to do those things anyway. There's a lot of different ways to win the game too, a lot of paths to victory. Super, super rewarding, although I will tell you, it's really a solo game. It shines. There's a lot to consider. I wouldn't say it's a hard game to understand. There's just so many easy elements to understand, that the quantity of choices is where the complexity comes from. It's not really, strongest as a multiplayer game. They try to make a multiplayer element where you can borrow someone else's, powers, and you have to pay them a little bit, but that doesn't really come into play. It's really you're playing next to each other and who has the higher score. But wow, what a great game. So if you're looking to get into roll and write games, these are the ones I would recommend. I've had a great time with all of these. So once again, okay, friends, have fun with that. I hope you stay indoors, stay warm, and have fun gaming. See you later. Bye.